gold-backed currency, it's a fake. It's a fake because it's just not going to be real money. Who's going to watch the watchers? Who's going to make sure that their fractional reserve requirement of gold in the vault is actually being fulfilled?
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for July 31st through August 6, 2023, while supplies last. This week we featured 2023 1/10 ounce gold eagles at just $37.50 over melt. The gold eagle was first released in 1986 and has been one of the most popular gold bullion coins in the world, providing incredible recognizability and investor trust. The 1/10 ounce eagle is additionally sought after for its high degree of flexibility and liquidity. Like the 1 ounce eagle, the 1/10 ounce eagle is 22 karat gold strengthened with copper. It's 1/10 of a troy ounce of gold. Comes 50 to a tube, 5,000 to a box, and is available at just $37.50 over melt while supplies last. Finally, the Gold Eagle is IRA eligible. And if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us and we'll be happy to help you in that process. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest. We've had a long-term relationship with Kerry Lutz, the founder of this Financial Survival Network. Kerry, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Hey, man. Dunnigan, thank you for having me. It's always an honor to be on the show with you.
I want to tell those in our audience who don't know the history that you were actually a mentor to and a kind of a avenue for our son, Elijah Johnson, to break into broadcasting. And he showed promise to you, and you said, we're going to make a rock star out of you, kid. And he not only got to be on your channel, but you helped him with the launching of his channel, promoting it. And he spoke at his first national conference at approximately age 16 at the first mastermind symposium that you had in Dallas, Texas. And it was a great honor there. And boy, if I had been wearing anything other than a sweater, I would have had buttons popping off my chest all over the room. So anyway, thanks for being that kind of enabling influence to help us get started. And then through my son's involvement, he started showing us his videos and everything at the supper table, and I ended up getting really concerned myself about the direction things were going. And so based on his research and the guests that he had on, I started my own channel, which was then Reluctant Preppers in 2013, and have had you on throughout the years at different times, and both of us on each other's channels. So welcome back. And here we are at the Rural Symposium on Natural Resource Investing in Boca Raton, Florida. You're close to your stomping grounds, and now our new stomping grounds. We just relocated down to Florida. We fled to Florida over the last 3 months here. We've been enjoying it in many ways. I know it's a good move because the last time we moved to Northwest Ohio, after about the first month, my wife had a list of about 15 things that she didn't like about the area where we were living. The exception being the people were really nice, and we came after a while. After a while, we came to enjoy small town living, and people wave at you and they drive past and that kind of thing. So we sought out a small town here, and that's where we're currently renting and looking to buy if we find the right place, and also just seeing how we like the year-round climate and everything. It's been enjoyable in many, many ways. And so we're situated here, you're situated here, but we're at the Rural Conference because we both have a passion and an interest for what's going on in sound money and companies associated with that and so on. I wanted to ask you a question about the track that you see us on as a country. Now, the name of your channel, which has been around for
12 years.
12 years.
12 years.
The Financial Survival Network implies that that's not something to be taken for granted, that we're going to survive, let alone thrive in the changes that are coming, but that it needs to be something we need to be aware and intentional and plan ahead and take active steps about. You've talked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guests. You no doubt have drawn, and I've heard you express some conclusions of your own as far as your viewpoint of the trajectory that we're on as a country, as a world. Anything that raises to the top of your mind, maybe 1, 2, or 3, key points that just won't let you go, that you keep coming back to, as far as things that you feel maybe the average person isn't thinking about, but you think it's important for people to be thinking about?
Well, it's just the lack of long-term viability and sustainability of the system, the ever-increasing amounts of debt. Hey, you remember a guest that I had on many years ago? You knew him well, ranting Andy Hoffman. And, you know, I got into this in 2011, right after the great financial collapse, or as they're calling it now, the GFC. I think they'll be calling it the NGFC, the NSGFC, not so great financial collapse, based on what happened during the pandemic. But Andy and I always said the next crash was going to be worse than the last. And I will double down on that and say that the next crash is going to be even worse than the pandemic crash with all that money printing. If you remember, in 08 and 09, the Federal Reserve printed up $16 trillion worth of currency units to bail out the global banking system.
Wait a minute, that was supposed to be 400 billion. Oh, scratch, 800 billion. Well, we'll tell you later.
Yeah, well, yeah. So they just wrote checks, basically, well, figuratively speaking, and they sent money because the alternative was the collapse. We don't even know how much they really printed during the pandemic. But my guess is it was many times more than 16 trillion. And then you add onto the debt. So it's a debt-based currency. Basically, every dollar in existence is borrowed into existence. And, you know, it looks good on paper. When I went to school and I learned economics, they said, well, you know, fractional reserve banking, we have an elastic money supply. So when you need money, when society, you know, the economy is growing, the money supply expands. But what we have here is the elastic money supply is inelastic in that it can never stop expanding. It can't. And, you know, when you and I were growing up, they used to talk about billions in Washington, Capitol Hill. And in fact, Everett Dirksen had a joke, said $1 billion here, $1 billion there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. Now we're talking trillions, and $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there. You're talking about real money. The other thing that sticks in my craw is derivatives. All right. It's an opaque market. I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of it, but when you're talking quadrillions and quintillions, and, you know, I don't even know what comes after that. And everybody is betting on everything. Man, one thing you know is these complex systems have built-in fragility. The more complex they get, the more fragile they become. And, you know, you see it with the internet. When something blows up in the internet, you know, countries go down now. Countries go down, whole countries. You know, if we didn't have internet for an hour, the country would basically shut down.
We've certainly seen impacts on thousands of airlines flights being grounded, banks not being able to transact, et cetera. So, yeah, that's why it's sweeping.
And consider the fact that it was bad 15, 20 years ago. What'd you have? 25 years ago, you had one device. You had a desktop computer in your house and one in your office. The whole family used the desktop. Now you got, I mean, I don't know about you, I have 8, 10 devices, and that doesn't even include everything that's hooked into my Wi-Fi. You know, my refrigerator will stop working. You know, my gas range will stop working. Everything will stop working. And this isn't far-fetched. So, I mean, you even see it with the electrical grid. They're so concerned about that. We're getting these microgrids now. We're going to have these micro internets so that the whole thing doesn't just blow up, because when it was designed, it really wasn't designed with security in mind. It wasn't designed like an airplane with redundant systems. There's just like, you got these nodes, they're redundant, but the system itself doesn't have redundancy built into it as a safety feature. So, there's so many threats, black swans out there. All right. I think currently, the dollar will retain its reserve currency status, not because it's so wonderful. Yeah, the military doesn't hurt, but because there's just no alternative. And as little credibility as the dollar has, I don't really want to be trading in yuan, and no one else does. You see these BRICS countries. I know you're probably going to ask me this question about the BRIC gold-backed currency. It's a fake. It's a fake because it's just not going to be real money. Who's going to watch the watchers? Who's going to make sure that their fractional reserve requirement of gold in the vault is actually being fulfilled? Look, China has become the biggest disappointment on the planet now because everything we thought they stood for, everything that they were doing, has turned out to be a total, complete fraud.
How do you mean?
I mean, they've got a thing there. They call it tofu direct construction. And that's where, like, elaborate buildings up there, and then you knock on the wall and it's like styrofoam. And all the infrastructure they're building, it's this one group who has a YouTube channel calls it the land of facades and shortcuts. And the corruption, as bad as it is here in the West, is far worse there. And, they project one thing, but what the reality under the surface is really bad. So they're not really fit to become the world leader. And I kind of dread that ever happening. Yeah, they've made some smart moves like buying up resources all over the world. Great move. But on the other hand, things are not good. The real estate bust there. Mm-hmm. It's the most hyperinflated currency in the world, the yuan. The real estate bust there is just way worse than anything we could have here. Way, way worse.
So with your title being the Financial Survival Network, that must mean with these awarenesses that you're sharing, that there's things people can do to improve their chances of being hurt less by the changes that are coming.
I think you can. At least you can be prepared for them. Having a plan, even if Mike Tyson said a plan is great till you get hit in the head, right? But having some kind of plan, you should have it anyway. Even if this thing, God willing, goes on for another 2 decades, 3 decades, centuries, disasters always occur. That's a normal occurrence. In Florida here, our one negative, if you buy the climate change agenda, we're sinking and the place is going to be flooded. I'm not so sure about that. Yes, there are parts of Miami that are sinking and high tide, it floods a little in the streets, but, disasters, hurricane, hurricane's our biggest disaster here. Hey, if we couldn't get gasoline, oil didn't come in here for a couple of weeks, this place would lose it. But, natural disasters. So that means, hey, food, water filter, and, some currency units and some precious metals. All right. That's at the very least. And then as far as, the global collapse, well, when it happens, I had to evacuate for a hurricane once since I lived here. I didn't have to, but I was under pressure from my family to get out.
Sure, yeah.
So then
it just proves that you're loved.
Yeah, well, definitely. I'm blessed. 3 kids that love me and 3 grandchildren, or 2, third on the way. But I had to figure out, what do I take and what do I leave? And having too much of anything that you got to take is a negative. It was a real trial.
Yeah.
And, you want your personal protection devices with you. So I brought a couple of them.
Did you drive?
Yeah, I
I was
drove.
going to say, because the flying would be problematic there. Okay.
Yeah, you couldn't get a flight out. And, I drove up to Orlando. And as it turned out, that's where the hurricane hit. It was a Category 1 in Orlando. In Palm Beach County, it was a tropical storm. So I was wrong to leave. And the power went out in Orlando before it went out at my house because my alarm, my computer sent me a message that had lost power there 9 o'clock in the morning, but 9 o'clock in the evening, the hotel where I was staying lost power.
Gotcha.
So that's just, and I mean, I didn't panic or anything. I actually left a couple of days before the hurricane was supposed to hit. So now I've got a generator. I've got impact windows that'll take 180 mile an hour hit. I changed my garage door. So unless it's going to be the end of the world, I'm staying home. So, and that is your best bet. If you're in a position to be able to shelter in place, you always want to do that. Because once you leave the safety of your home, who knows? Who knows where you're going to wind up? So it's just better to fortify your home if it's possible. Sometimes you have an earthquake or, mudslide, whatever, you have to get out. But you should plan for, on a scale of 1 to 10, you should plan to stay there up to an 8. If it gets to an 8, then you need to take flight.
We just interviewed Paul Helinski, the founder of GunsAmerica.com, and he talked to us about home defense. And one of the things he kept stressing over and over is the best way to be prepared for a gunfight is to how to avoid it. Yeah. And so this is the same thing. Is like sheltering in place may be your best option if you make the proper preparations there. And we can talk a little bit more about that maybe on the flip side. But anyway, Kerry, any thoughts for people who are just meeting you? They're just finding out about the Financial Survival Network. How often you post content there? How do they get connected?
Sure. It's just financialsurvivalnetwork.com. We're posting at least. When I started, I was gung-ho. I was doing 4 or 5 episodes a day, 7 days a week. And that was 12, 13 years ago. That was more just to perfect the craft of speaking to an audience. And then, now it's like 2 to 3 episodes a day, 5 days a week. So it could be up to 15, but at least 10. And, I love doing it. So my purpose isn't to tell you what to do. My purpose, I view myself as a messenger. Please don't shoot me. But I bring you viewpoints. And sometimes the viewpoints that I bring you in a day will be completely conflicting. Yeah. And then you have to decide what to do.
I feel that is extremely healthy. And that's something that we're losing culturally. And just in the past 3 years, I think people can relate to that we've seen a clampdown like we've never seen before. At least maybe it's been there before, but it's been overt. It's been blatant. It's been in our face. It's been front and center, not just kind of behind the scenes or behind the shadowy curtain. It's been part of our daily lives, is that we're being told by our keepers that it's so important that you not know and not hear this and not hear that and you not hear this. And it's like, really? So important to whom? To us or to you and to the power that you're trying to protect? So that's, kudos to you for having, cultivated a place where there can be diverging viewpoints so that people can form it's like, so when my son was dyslexic and I learned a little bit more about that. And one of the teachers said to us that actually dyslexic people tend to be more creative because most people look at the letter like R, capital R or something like that. And to them, it's a 2-dimensional symbol and it always has to be that one if it's not in that one orientation. But she said, that's not how you look at a cat. You see a cat from any different direction. It might look any different way. So that highly creative people tend to look at things 3-dimensionally or 4-dimensionally or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, the more dimensions we can look at, the more viewpoints we can look at a particular baffling phenomenon. All this stuff is complex that's going on and beyond the reach of an ordinary person. But by bringing more perspectives on it to your audience, I'm sure you help enable them to form a more informed conclusion.
Well, so what you were saying about people who are dyslexic, I wasn't dyslexic, but I wanted to read from right to left instead of left to right. So as, square peg in a round hole.
You just want to know how the story ended.
Yeah. Hey, well, what I learned is that we take in, there are lateral thinkers. They got to go from A to B to C to D. And that's what they train everybody to be in school. But lateral thinkers, it's like the old story. The A students are working for the C students, and the B students are the lawyers and whatever. And
once they're grown up and graduate, yeah,
exactly. That's but the ability to think critically, to think outside the box.
Yeah.
I was just born to do it.
Yeah.
Add to that a healthy dose of skepticism towards the narrative, towards government, towards control and power. And that's how I wound up where I am today. So, being able to agree to disagree, well, that seems to have disappeared from society. We've got our digital overlords who really want us to say and not say certain things and, keep everybody happy. But, if that would work, I'd be all in favor of it. But in the long term, it can't work. And it's only going to be destructive to people.
Yeah, separation from reality usually causes a bigger fall. And I'm not sure about keeping people happy, but keeping people docile. So anyway, there's a higher goal than that, and that's what you're seeking out at Financial Survival Network. So we're grateful for you visiting us again on Liberty and Finance. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's been too long. It's great to be back, and hey, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Kerry.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.